Well, after a fair bit of deliberation and going over things, I've decided that I'm going to stay here at Gladstone, and thanks to Gary and Jason, I've been talking about what my problem is with them. I'm 90% sure that it's a damper plate that drives the gearbox. Now this is something that I can repair in the marina. It means I've got to lift the gearbox off the back of the motor and replace the damper plate. The research I've done on it say that damper plates are only going to last 20 years. These engines have been here for 23, and you should get about 3,500 hours out of them. They've done 8,500 hours, so I think they're probably were ready to fail. So what I'm going to have to do is disconnect my shaft coupling. So there's 4 bolts in this coupling that have to come out. The shaft's going to have to be slipped back till the prop hits the rudder, and that should give me a couple of inches of clearance there. Then all of these bolts around the bell housing will have to be undone, and the whole gearbox will have to be slipped back. I'll have to undo these hydraulic hoses and my control. Not a problem. And then inside the bell housing, that's where the damper plate is. So that's going to be the chore. Hydraulics, keep them clean. Now what I've got to do now is undo the shaft coupling and slide the shaft back as far as I can. I should be able to get 2 or 3 inches before the prop actually hits the rudder. And to do that, I'm going to have to loosen my rotor on my PSS seal, and when I slide the shaft back, I'll have to push the rotor back onto the PSS seal to stop water coming in. So it's a bit of a trick doing it in the water. If you're doing this on the hard, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But yeah, doing it in the water, I don't want water coming into the boat. So I'm going to have to slide the shaft back and move the rotor forward so that I'm still sealing on that bellows. I'm using a 1/8 Allen key. There's 2 grub screws. There's actually 4 grub screws, because the first one I'm going to take out is a locking screw. People get tricked by this all the time. The first screw out is a locking screw. And these will have been Loctited in, so there can be a little bit of a chore sometimes to get out. But there's another screw down there. Okay, so that's the second one. That's the one that's actually holding the rotor onto the shaft. and there's only two of them at right angles to each other. They should be Loctited in as well. You don't want any of this moving when you're underway. Now there'll be 4 nuts and bolts on the actual shaft coupling, and you've got to get a spanner each side of them. These are on nylock nuts on this side, and the screw will come in this way. Once I take those 4 nuts and bolts off and loosen that rotor, I should be able to slide this shaft back. These were very tight as they have to be, but I've got them all broken now, so should come out okay. Always a little bit of a chore working down in the engine room here. You just got to make yourself as comfortable as you can and get into it. Okay, that's the flange unbolted. A bit of a shake and a rattle. Maybe hit with a hammer. That should come back, but there's going to be a bit of resistance from the PSS seal, so I'll have to loosen that collar off there to get it back a bit. So now that's as far back as I can get that shaft, and hopefully that's enough that I can get the gearbox back and out of the spline and then lift it out. If not, I'm going to have to lift the back of the engine to get it up over that shaft, which will mean a jack underneath the belt housing, I guess. That's it for today. I can't do much more until I get a sling set up to take the weight of the gearbox while I unbolt it off the bell housing. So that means a trip to Bunnings to get some timber to make up a bit of a gantry. Anyway, that was a good little job getting that done today. It didn't take too long, and that part of the job's done. No water leaking into the boat, which is always a good thing. A little bit of woodworking this morning. So I've just made up with a couple of bits of 3x2. I've just made up a little gantry, and I've put a come along on it, or what it is a tie down, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier just supporting the gearbox while I get it off. So I've got all of that set up. It's looking pretty good. Now what I've got to do is get down in there and undo the bell housing bolts and drop the gearbox off. So the next job is to remove all of these bolts from the bell housing. There are quite a few of them. Some of them are a bit tight. That's all the bolts out apart from 2, and we'll get a bit of a rope around this gearbox now and try to sling it, and that'll support the weight before I take the other 2 bolts out. So there we are, and the damper plate looks like in there, it looks like it's totally destroyed, I'd say. Just bits. Just bits. But don't want to jinx myself, that's come off pretty easy and I think I'll be able to hoist that up out the way now. Well, I've got the gearbox out and swung out of the way a bit. That's up there pretty safe, I think. And now I've got to, I think what I've got to do is take these Allen screws out, and it looks like the damper plate mounts behind that. So I'll have to pull this out and see how it goes. I don't know, there's screw heads there, but I don't know whether the nuts have come off the top of them or what's going on there. But yeah, there's a bit of scoring there, and there's a bit of scoring on the bell housing plate. I don't think that'll worry me. The bearings feel alright in the box feels all good, so I think the plate definitely wrecked, so I think if I can get a new plate and put it in, it should do the job. Just trying to keep it a little bit clean. It's very messy work. It's sort of like you know, ground clutch material sort of in here, so pretty yucky. But anyway, back into it. Loctite on them. Last screw out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws in that plate, and that nut lifts off. And there we've got what's left of the damper plate mounted behind. So that's the actual damper plate mounted behind this one. That's how this one works anyway. And inside here there's the remnants of some springs and bits and pieces of the plate that's fallen apart. Certainly has destroyed itself. You can see bits of metal and broken springs. So I don't know. I really don't know how long that plate has been compromised for, because it looks like it's been going around chewing itself up for a long while. Anyway, now the trick is to get another damper plate that size. I'll get that one off and see how we go. So with that plate off, that's the back of the flywheel. A lot of dust and stuff in there, bit of scratching around here, but nothing disastrous, and that all looks in pretty good nick. So I think it's just a matter of getting that plate off, installing a new one and putting it all back together. So it's been good so far. Awkward in the bilge of a boat, but probably worse jobs to do. This is the last thing I've got to do, is just take the plate off this backing plate, and then the next thing I've got to do is find the part.
It's very broken, isn't it?
Something you should be really aware of, I think. I wasn't aware that these things had such a service life, but they reckon you should be looking at your damper plate every 3,000 or 4,000 hours. So this one was totally destroyed. Hasn't done any damage, I don't think, but yeah, it's something you really want to service. So be aware that when you start getting up in the hours, your damper plate or your drive plate might be something you want to look at. So that's it for the job today. The damper plate is out, the gearbox is out, the damper plate's out, and now I've got to try and source some parts. Just a bit of an update, dudes. I've got that gearbox off. I've got onto Polyflex. They actually make damper plates for all sorts of engines. I talked to Jesse down there. He was really good, understood everything I was talking about. I've posted the old damper plate down to him, so he's got the diameter, the hole sizes, everything to do with it. I think he's got some down there. I talked to him this morning. He's going to endeavour to get 2 plates into the mail and send them up to the marina here at Gladstone. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I might have them on Monday. We'll have to see how that goes. I'm just killing time here a little bit, doing a few other little jobs on the boat. And look, when all this first started to happen, I was about ready to cut my wrists because I thought, oh, it's a gearbox problem. I was really pretty depressed on the whole thing. But thanks to Jason, who contacted me and said, look, it's probably only a damper plate, which it was. Thanks, Jason. It was good for you to put my mind at rest a bit, and it was definitely the damper plate that was the problem. So thanks very much for your input, mate. That was great. But anyway, it's just a matter of waiting for the parts now. And cruising, I guess it just goes to show, this is a real channel, and it just goes to show that it's not always lovely beaches, crystal clear water, and the sun out. Okay, we spend a lot of time hiding out of the wind, and at times, boats getting older, at times you've just got to do these little jobs. I won't be happy with just doing the engine that's let me down. I'm going to have to pull the gearbox off the other one when I get these parts and do that as well, because I know that if I don't, down the track it'll probably let me down. And here at Gladstone, I'm very comfortable. We've got great facilities here. It's a great marina, and the guys are really helpful. I drive you around to different places. You can pick parts up, and you've got all of the industry around Gladstone, so it is a great spot to do jobs like this. So thanks to the staff at the Gladstone Marina as well. Okay, well, it's Sunday. I've been waiting 3 days for parts. I've got the parts organised. Hopefully I'm going to get them Monday, but I just thought I'd do a few little things to get ready to put the new gearbox in. And what I did, probably foolishly, I thought a good way to get the box out. It weighs about 50 kilos, I think, which is a little bit heavy to be lifting down in the bilge. So I got this ratchet strap, and that's how I lifted it out. Now the big problem with that is when I let that ratchet strap off, it's just going to drop the box. There's no way of lowering it. So what I've done, I just got a couple of blocks I had down in the bilge. I've had them there for ages, and I've just made up a block and tackle setup. So now that's going to take the weight, all right. So that's taking the weight off the ratchet strap. So now I can get that strap off and out the way, and then I can just lower it on the block and tackle. So I probably should have just done that in the first place. Like, I could have lifted it out on that. I never even thought about the stuff I had down there, and yeah, it would have worked all right. Anyhow, good trick for you guys. If you're on a boat, you've probably got a couple of blocks laying around somewhere. This is off a Traveller, I think. So just a block I had laying in my spare parts inventory, and works really well for just taking that bit of weight and making life a little bit easier. Well, I just had a delivery from FedEx, so these are my new damper plates. I really got to thank Jesse at Polyflex. I rang him Thursday, and he organised the plates. He found that he had them, which was fantastic, and he got them on FedEx on Friday. If he'd waited till today, I would have probably been waiting until tomorrow, at least maybe Wednesday. But it's great to deal with someone that knows that you're broken down, you're in a marina, it's costing you a lot of money to be here, and you know, getting the dispatch away pretty quickly has been fantastic. So thanks very much, Jesse. Thanks very much, Polyflex. So all we've got to do now is get a bit dirty and get this gearbox back onto the motor. Let's have a look. There's my old plate. Here's the new one. and you can see these ones are a bit different, where this old plate had springs in it. It was a spring damper plate. This one's a Polyflex one, so instead of springs you've got this Polyflex coupling, but the beauty of these is that if they fail, they drive on, they've got lugs that'll drive on them, so you should have a get home feature built into these drive plates. No. Well, there you go. So even though we tried very hard, it's not going to fit the job. So we're going to have to take a bit off the OD of this. That's a nuisance, but just the way it is. And that'll have to be done before I can put it back together. Okay, now because these damper plates were a little bit bigger in diameter, I've had this backing plate turned out a bit, so now that slots into there all right. I'm just going to try the screws in it. Make sure it picks them all up. Okay, so I found that the pitch of the holes is a little bit out, very tiny bit out, so I'm just going to have to over drill them. I'm just going a bit of a clearance drill and deburring the holes now. So not perfect by any means, but get us out of a tight spot. Right, let's see how we go now. See if we can get them all started. I don't want to put a couple in for now because I've got to Loctite all these in. I just want to make sure that they're all pitched okay. Right, I've just got that coupling hole into the back of the backing plate, and I'm going to go and put that down and take some measurements, because what I'm trying to work out is where I've got enough engagement of the spline to make sure it dries okay. What I'm doing now is just Loctiting all these in. Tightening them all up, and this is high strength Loctite I'm using. We don't want any of this coming loose, that's for sure. So I'm using the high strength Loctite. All the measurements I've done are good. I'm going to have nearly full engagement of that spline on the gearbox spline, so I'll miss out by about 1/8 of an inch, I think, so it'll nearly be fully engaged, which should be okay. Okay, now this plate's got to go up into the flywheel here. Once again using Loctite on the screws. Goes into a collar. Let's go around and get them all started. I think it's the first thing to do. Let's go. Okay, that's it for today, boys and girls. Time to go and have a wash and have a shower. So, new damper plate in, all back together. What I have to do tomorrow is swing this gearbox down, line that spline up with the spline in the damper plate and bolt it back onto the bell housing. So it should be tricky. It'll be a fun job, but we'll see how we go. Just having a look, it looks like the seal in the back of the gearbox there is alright, touch wood. No visible signs of leaking oil or anything there, or something you could replace if you wanted to, but I think I'll leave that alone. And yeah, we'll get this gearbox back on tomorrow. Well, this is the best result I've had today. That slid back into the spline pretty easily, so I'm very happy about that. And all I've got to do is go around and put all the bell housing bolts back in. All the bell housing bolts are in, so I just got to go around and tighten them up. Very happy how that went back on. Got to hook up some hydraulic lines, reattach the coupling, I guess. Connect these hydraulic lines up now. Well, I just went down and checked that motor again. This is the port side motor, the one that stopped working. I did do the starboard side as well. I've done both engines now. It took me about 2 weeks, but I wasn't trying to break any records. I just did it, probably did 2 or 3 hours a day. If you're a younger person and a bit fitter, you'd probably knock the job over in a couple of days, but yeah, it took me a little while just pacing myself. Anyway, I've got both of the engines done now. Both got brand new damper plates. So what we're going to do now is take the boat out, take it for a bit of a run, make sure everything's right, and get a bit of confidence in the fact that the job I've done is functioning okay, I guess. Well, that was good to get that trip out of the way. I left here and went out to the Oaks. It's about a 2-hour trip. Checked everything out, everything was fine, and then I've taken the boat around Curtis Island. So I've run it for about probably 10 hours and everything works really well. So I've got a bit of confidence back in running these motors now. So all good.